All right, today we're diving into Platform Revolution, a book that really pulls back the curtain on how some of the most powerful companies in the world actually work. We're going to explore how businesses that own almost nothing can end up dominating huge traditional industries. So let's kick things off with a bit of a puzzle. How on earth did one of the oldest industries out there, hospitality, get completely flipped upside down by a couple of designers with nothing but an air mattress? I mean, think about that for a second. It just doesn't make any sense, right? You've got giants like Marriott or Hilton spending decades and billions of dollars building this physical empire of hotels. And then, practically overnight, a company with 0 hotels becomes the biggest name in the game. How does that even happen? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. Back in 2007, 2 guys, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, couldn't afford their rent. A big design conference was hitting town, and every single hotel was booked solid. So they had this idea. What if we just throw a few air mattresses on our floor and rent them out? They weren't trying to build a global empire. They were just building a platform to connect 2 groups of people, folks who needed a place to crash and folks who had some extra space. That simple connection, that was the spark. And that Airbnb story is the perfect way to understand this massive shift in how business gets done. It really sets up the core battle we're looking at today, the old industrial way of doing things versus this incredibly powerful new model. For the last 100 years or so, pretty much every business was what you'd call a pipeline. Think of a car company. They buy steel, they shape it on an assembly line, and they push a finished car out the other end to a customer. They own the whole process, step by step. Platforms, they flip that completely on its head. They don't own the cars like Uber. They don't own the apartments like Airbnb. All they do is create a space, a network, where people who make stuff and people who want stuff can find each other and do business directly. And that right there, that's their superpower. A pipeline business, like a hotel chain, can only grow as fast as it can build new hotels. That's slow, and it's crazy expensive. But a platform can scale almost instantly. It doesn't need to build anything. It just needs to get more people to sign up. By getting rid of the traditional gatekeepers, the taxi dispatchers, the hotel managers, they let people create and exchange value directly with each other and at a mind-blowing speed. So, what's the engine that's driving all of this incredible growth? What is it that makes these networks so ridiculously powerful? Well, it's not just about the tech. It's an old economic idea that the internet has put on steroids, something called network effects. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's so profound. A network effect just means that the platform gets more valuable for every single person on it as more people join. Think about it. The very first telephone ever made was basically useless, right? It was just a box. But every time someone else got a phone, that first phone became more and more valuable. It's the exact same logic that fuels modern platforms. And this shows just how different the thinking is. Traditional companies, the pipelines, they run on supply-side economies of scale. The more cars Ford makes, the cheaper it is to make each individual car. But platforms run on demand-side economies of scale. The more users they get, the more valuable the service becomes for everybody. It's this incredible self-reinforcing loop of growth. Let's make this super practical. Imagine Uber launching in your city. On day 1, there's 1 driver, and you're the only rider. The service would be awful, wouldn't it? You might have to wait an hour for that 1 driver to become free. The value for both of you is incredibly low. But now let's fast forward. There are 1,000 drivers and thousands of riders all over the city. All of a sudden, the value just explodes. For you, the rider, your wait time is now like 3 minutes. For the drivers, there's always another fare right around the corner. The service isn't just a little bit better. It's a completely different, massively more valuable thing. And the best part? The platform itself didn't have to buy a single car. That is the magic of network effects. Okay, so this leads to a really critical question. If a platform's value comes from having tons of users, how in the world does it get its first users? This is probably the biggest hurdle that every single platform has to figure out. Yeah, this is the puzzle that kills so many great ideas. Why would the first rider ever sign up for Uber if there are 0 drivers on the road? And why would the first driver waste their time on an app with no riders? Each side is just waiting for the other to make the first move. It feels impossible to get it started. But Platform Revolution lays out some really clever ways to solve this. There's the piggyback strategy, for example, where you basically borrow another platform's audience. In the early days, Airbnb built a tool so hosts could easily post their listings on Craigslist, tapping into that massive existing user base. Or there's the seeding strategy, where you create the initial value yourself. Like if you were starting a restaurant review site, you might write the first 100 reviews to get people to show up, and then the restaurants will follow. And of course, there's the micro-market strategy, which Facebook famously used. They didn't launch to the world. They launched only at Harvard. They created a super dense, active network in one small place before they even thought about expanding. So, the big takeaway here is that this isn't just a story about a few clever apps. We are talking about a fundamental restructuring of our entire economy. The question really isn't if your industry will be transformed by a platform, but when. And the book argues this is really just the beginning. Some of our biggest, most established industries are next on the list. I mean, think about education with its crazy high costs and old school gatekeepers, or healthcare with the huge disconnect between doctors and patients. Platforms could completely disrupt these fields by connecting students directly to teachers or patients to the exact right specialists, making everything more efficient, accessible, and personal. And in the end, the authors argue this whole revolution is about something bigger than just business. At its best, the platform model shifts power away from big central institutions and out to individuals. It gives regular people the tools and the access to create value on their own terms. It's about unlocking human potential on a massive scale. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Once you start looking for it, you'll see these old pipelines everywhere. In your job, in your community, in all the services you use. The real question is, which one in your world is about to get turned into a platform next?